Hello and welcome to Trusty Chords, the podcast which aims to celebrate music and those that create it. For well over a decade now, Jacob Banks has been enchanting listeners the world over with his immersive blend of soul and R&B. Rising to prominence following his success in a music competition in 2012, Banks quickly became a hot ticket, scoring plenty of airplay thanks to his early singles, including collaborative singles with the likes of Wretch 32 and Chase and Status. Singles soon turned to EPs, and by the end of 2018, he'd released his debut album after signing to Interscope the year prior. Alongside myriad appearances on TV soundtracks and video games, Banks has continued writing, recording, and releasing stellar music at every turn. Last year, he kicked things off with the release of Yonder, a three-part series of EPs that arrived over the coming months and were eventually compiled as a full album just a few months ago. If you've not yet heard Jacob Banks, I recommend giving Yonder a spin so as to allow yourself the chance to witness just what this amazing musician is capable of when operating at his full capability. Next month, Banks will return to Australia for his second solo tour, with shows scheduled for Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and also an appearance at the Wanderer Festival in New South Wales. But before that tour kicks off, this week I was lucky enough to be joined by Jacob Banks for a quick chat about how he's less of a musician and more of a storyteller, regardless of the medium. Anyway, have a listen to Jacob Banks' Yonder, buy a ticket to his upcoming tour, have a listen to our chat, and I'll see you at the end of the episode for some general housekeeping. Jacob Banks, thank you very much for joining this episode of the Trusty Chords podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be.
So for those who might not recognize your name, could you give me a quick few words on who you are and why we're chatting today?
My name is Jacob Banks, and I tell stories via the medium of music.
I like that. It's very nice and succinct, and it also sounds really good as well. But I guess before we talk about how you are, in a contemporary sense, I'm telling stories through music. What I love to do at the start of these podcasts is always ask the question about where a love of music first formed. So, do you have a recollection of your earliest memory of when music first resonated with yourself?
As an artist, or just a listener. As a listener, I think it was the first time there's a song called "At the Beginning" at the end of an animation called Anastasia, and I remember this is back in the day of VCR, and I remember hearing it and I was floored. I remember having feelings. I was like, bro, I didn't think I was capable of such feelings. I was young, probably 9, 10, and that was the first time I felt moved by something at a spiritual level, and it was that particular song.
I actually grew up with the soundtrack to Anastasia, and for some reason I had two VHS copies out of one. One was a regular edition and one was a widescreen edition. So I know that song very, very well.
Yeah. Moved the life out of me.
Yeah, it is a very moving song. It's also a very underrated movie, I feel, in the grand scheme of things, especially for a soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
I guess, apart from, songs on the Anastasia soundtrack, what other artists sort of were you listening to in those formative years? Because you obviously mentioned that you are, a listener, so you obviously would have been hearing a bit. But did that sort of serve as a little bit of a gateway for you to help to discover other?
Yeah, I think I did. I went down a rabbit hole of all Disney stuff, and then I think the next big moment was Westlife, which is like a boy band from the UK. Yeah, and they were really special to me growing up. Just beautiful, beautiful songs. And then as time went on, the introduction of YouTube was a gateway to everything. I think YouTube came into my life. I was able to. There were songs that I'd heard in passing that I was never I had heard a song in passing. I remember I was living in Nigeria at the time, so I was born in Nigeria. I was going up the steps to our apartment. And in my neighbor's house, I heard this song playing, and I could never get that melody out of my head. And for years, I couldn't. I didn't know how to describe the song or even anyone to talk to about it. And YouTube came into my life. And then I found out the song was KC and JoJo, All My Life. And again, that's another song that, floors me. And such a beautiful, beautiful song. Melodies are incredible. vocals are incredible in that song. And yeah, and it just kind of, yeah, I just used, yeah, I kept YouTube in business for at least a decade after I found it.
So we can definitely thank you for that then.
You're welcome.
No, I also definitely appreciate the mention of Westlife, because I think actually Westlife were the very first single that I ever bought. I think I bought a copy of Swear It Again, um, and I'm pretty sure I've still got it in the shelves behind me here. Um,
Sorry.
which of course, I mean, as a nice little segue for anyone listening, it is available on YouTube, so definitely go check it
Yeah,
out. But
it's out there.
for yourself, how did a love of music turn into actually playing music? Like, when did you sort of realize this is a world that I not only want to be in, but I sort of, I have this passion, I have a bit of talent as well?
You know what? Till today, I don't know if I ever consciously made the decision. I don't know if I have yet. I think I'm in the business of expressing myself, and I think the the bonus of that is people seem to care about my expression. But I don't think I've ever set out to be like, oh, I'm going to be Jacob Banks, a musician. I remember hearing my friend had sent me John Mayer, Slow Dancing in the Burning. And I was like, yeah, I need to, I need to be able to do that. Like I'd listened to so much music at that point where it's just, I, I believe, and it's, my theory is you love something enough and there's like a ceiling. And if you cross the ceiling, you go from a listener to someone that contributes. And I think I was just always on that line where it's just like, just indulging in so much music, but I never kind of crossed that line. I'd be like, oh, let me pick up a guitar. And when I heard Slow Dancing in a Burning Room by John Mayer, then I heard Gravity. And I was like, yeah, I need to learn how to play it. My goal was to learn how to play on guitar. And then when I was doing that, I would sing along naturally. And then I was like, oh, this feels all right. Then I started learning songs that I liked, like Hero by Enrique Iglesias. That was easy to play. It's like four chords. And I think it just kind of spiraled out of control. I never ever tried to be a musician. Like my friends would hear me because I was in uni at the time, living in like a house share. So people would hear me just practicing and they'd be like, oh, there's this thing. Or like people were like, oh, I'm gonna hear that cover that you did. So I would record them and put it on SoundCloud. Yeah, but my process was I used to burn CDs for people. And I was like, oh, I'll just put it on SoundCloud. Everyone can just listen. And it turns out other people can listen. I thought it was just going to be for like my friends. And it just kind of all got out of control. I entered a competition. Entered a competition to work with an artist from the UK called Plan B um, through Adidas, and I ended up winning. And it just kept going. I never ever had the chance to be like, hey, do you want to do music? It just kind of, yeah, I think music kind of made the decision for me.
Right. Because you
Yeah.
you mentioned before that you are someone who, who expresses yourself, and I guess that makes me wonder as well. If you weren't expressing yourself through music, how would you be expressing yourself? Because obviously that is something that is vital to who you are. I mean, just from listening to the music, that it feels vital. But if it wasn't music, what do you feel it would be?
I think it would probably be um, visuals. I've directed about 99% of all my visuals and whatever. I think it would need to go somewhere. And whether it's the poetry, I think before music, I was obsessed with poetry. And I think that was kind of the line. I think going back to what we said earlier, when I heard Slow Dancing in a Burning, I was like, oh, this is just poetry. This is poetry. Like that line itself, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, is poetry. And I was like, oh, cool. So there is somewhere here where I can take my love for poetry and my love for music. There's a whole world here that I didn't know existed. Because at that point, music was very like, I don't know, like 50 Cent. to me at that time was kind of like was what was bubbling at that time for me. So music was kind of, I always thought it was this other life that's so different from who I was. And then I heard music that was so similar to where I was. I was like, okay, I need to partake in that. But yeah, if it wasn't music, I don't know. Yeah, probably something in film. Yeah, something behind the camera.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. And you were mentioning before about sort of the way everything was sort of taking off for yourself, like through competition. And then I guess from there, like it was really a case of like it was a little bit dizzying, really. Because I mean, I don't think I actually discovered your music only until about 5 years ago. But when I
Mm,
did, I had such a wealth of material to catch up on. And I was
mm,
just sort of looking through the achievements and I'm just like, man, this is stunning. But I
mm.
guess for yourself, was there a moment where you sort of thought, wow, I'm actually breaking through here? Things are taking off and folks are paying attention. Or is it sort of just more a case of like, as it keeps adding on, it's sort of hard to really take stock of that because it's a continuous growth?
Yeah, yeah, I guess yes and no, because I think I've had to reshape in my head how to quantify success. Um, because I don't think I've had success in the way that success is measured in the UK anyway. It's typically measured by radio plays and chart success. I haven't had success in that way, but I've had success in like a bunch of movies. I get to score stuff. I get to be a musician, which is more important to me than being an artist. I think I want to serve the story. I don't really I'm not glued to the idea of it saying Jacob Banks at the top of it. I just want to tell stories and I want to be honest. And so that's been hard to quantify, but I feel good. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I feel like I'm always pushing myself. And yeah, and I've gotten more from music than I could ever hope for. So I feel like in many ways I'm in a bonus stage of music. Like it's given me too much without me having to give up too much in return. So I feel like I'm in a I'm in a balance that I would want for myself.
Yeah, right.
If that
No, that makes total sense, actually. Um, and I guess also on like on more contemporary matters as well. Like it was last year that you launched your most recent project, which was Yonder, which has
yeah,
culminated this year with the release of its third part, and can
yeah,
now, as a bit of as a bit of promo for yourself, it can now be found as a larger project in all your digital outlets. But I
yeah,
guess tell me about Yonder. It's a brilliant listen, and it's a really rewarding project to spend some time with as a listener. But for yourself, how did it all kick off? Where did this sort of three EP project come from?
yeah. It's interesting that you feel like there was a rewarding lesson because I was doing it to because I think I'd realized that I've lived a very colorful life in the sense of like being born in Nigeria, moving to the UK, and growing up with a bunch of drum and bass introduced into my life, and dubstep, and then bass line, and then moving to London, and then growing up with having it as well as drum and bass. Like UK culture is so heavily influenced, or at least so by the Caribbean culture, like British youth culture is Caribbean culture, and then you have all that reggae and Bob Marley, and I've had so many like wonderful influences that feel genuine to my life, and I've always found like when I make an album, I'm having to only celebrate like a small portion of what it is. So it's like, oh, you can only make 10 songs about this thing. You can only make, and it just feels like I feel like I'm shortchanging myself. Like it's good, but it's like there's so much more I want to say. I feel like this story will be better told over a reggae instrumental, and I can't because it takes away from the experience of the album. So I wanted to make a body of work that celebrates those three areas of my life whilst giving the listener an option to opt in or opt out. I think it's, I don't want to force people to, you know, if you came here because we connect because of my African background. Hey, there are 5 songs here that's just for you. If you happen to, if your love spans over the 3 projects, great. If it doesn't, it's fine too. But you get your own 5 songs without having to like process some deep like poetic song about heartbreak if you don't want to. And it's turned out to have an adverse effect. It seems like people have really appreciated it, where I just wanted to feed parts of myself, but it turns out people don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, it's always very strange when you create art with a certain sort of I guess idea in mind, and then it's like it's appreciated and received differently. But
Yeah,
I can definitely say it is something you should be very very proud of, because it is a really beautiful listen, and it's like it is very diverse and I guess genre shifting
yeah,
creation as well, which is, again, I use the phrase rewarding to listen to, but I definitely recommend people pop some headphones on and really sit with it, because it is a wonderful piece of work.
thank
Um,
you.
I would also be remiss not to mention the Australian tour as well. It's obviously kicking off in early October, headline dates in Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney, and also at the Wanderer Festival in New South Wales. So this is just your second time in Australia, is that correct?
It's my second time touring.
Second
It's
time.
my it would be my third time. First time I ever was in Australia was for Future Music Festival. I was touring with Chase and Status. We had a song together, and I was brought out to perform because I was a single at the time. But this will be my third time in Australia, third time performing, but second time as my own show.
Of course. And I guess how did the Australian audiences respond to your debut tour as a headline artist? Like I guess since then, has it been a case of counting down the days until the return? Or?
Yeah, I've always, every tour I've done, I always try to see if we can work out a way to visit, our cousins out in Australia. But it's far. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just far, and
We
it's
don't
the
make it easy.
logistical. Yeah, I think the clash of seasons or whatever, it's just never. It's hard to find a pocket that makes sense. But luckily, we're able to find it this time. And it's been long overdue. But touring for me, in many ways, I just get to say thank you. Like that's kind of how I view it. I view it as like I get to come and shake hands and say thank you for everything that you guys do for me and supporting me, and it's such an adverse effect of the support and impacts my day to day. And I just sing some songs, shake some hands. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's the best of all possible worlds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I feel like in the interest of time, should get down to the portion of the podcast from which its namesake is derived. So, trusty chords sees me follow the 1, 3, and 5 structure of a standard chord, and I ask about one artist that's been impactful, 3 albums that have been influential, and 5 songs you can always turn to. So it's a bit wordy in its explanation, but I'm determined to make it happen. So my first question for you, Jacob, who is the one artist that has inspired you the most, whether it be personally or creatively?
Um, there's so many people to thank, but I would have to say at this point in my life, I think it's Beyonce. Not so much the music as such, because I don't think Beyonce makes songs thinking, "Oh, Jacob's gonna love this." I think I think her bravery at the level of success that she has, I don't think it's spoken about enough. I think she could easily do the safe thing over and over again. Like she's been one of the biggest artists in the world since her conception. She's always like trying to serve versions of herself and try different things, try a visual album, bring spoken word into an album, do a country album, do a dance, album. I think the level of bravery at the her level of success is unprecedented. I think usually at that time people play it safe. They know what works and they know how to get number one album if they want. So yeah, I think Beyonce would be my biggest inspiration.
I also very much like how you mentioned the bravery as well, because obviously a lot of people will focus on, her ability to make amazing music, but
Yeah,
the fact that she is, someone at the top of her game and willing to try new things, to
yeah,
basically go against the grain and just still be a musician at a core. It's really stunning.
yeah.
Um, My next question for you here, yeah, I'd love to know the three albums that have been impactful to you. This could be albums you're always throwing on or something integral to the musical evolution.
John Mayer Continuum uh, is it's an album that that changed the course of my life essentially. Another album, Amy Winehouse, Frank, and Anderson .Paak, Malibu.
Very nice choices as well, actually.
Uh,
Yeah, and I again, I also really appreciate the mention of Frank instead of Back in Black because sorry, Back to Black, not Back in Black, Back to Black because that's the one that I feel like most people sort of you hang their hat on in her discography, but Frank shows a lot of a lot of promise as well.
that's just There's just the times where I found those albums, and I think Anderson's .Paak, Malibu was insane,
Oh yeah.
absolutely insane.
No, it's
Yeah.
that is a truly stunning record as well, which I feel like doesn't get mentioned enough in the general discourse of music. So it's one that all listeners should give a listen to, I feel. And my final question, I'd love to know the five songs you could always turn to, whether it be for comfort, for excitement, anything at all. Your five trusty songs.
Five trusty songs. There's a song by Chance the Rapper um, called Sunday Candy. Just reminds me of I guess the song he talks about his grandma, which song reminds me of my grandma a lot as well. Sunday Candy. Let's see, what else? There's a song by the Mills Brothers, I think it's called. And I think Mill Brothers, yeah, the song's called Till Then. Also like just I like songs that feel like an embrace. Like those are songs I come back to. The songs that just feel like my hand's been held. Those are the songs that I always come back to. Bob Marley, No Woman, No Cry. Drake, Mob Ties. It's a special song just for me and my friendship group. Leanne La Havas, Gone. I think those are my five.
Amazing. I'm very keen to check out this last song as well because I've heard of all the other artists and most of the songs, but I've not heard of this last one. So I'm very excited to check this out.
You heard of Leanne La Havas?
I haven't, no.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
See, that is why I love these podcasts.
Genuinely, you're in for a treat.
Beautiful. See, this is why I love this podcast. It's like the discovery comes my way as well. It's not just for people listening. It's a wonderful experience that I have as well.
She's a big deal, like in the UK at least. She's a big deal over here, and truly wonderful artist. And same, she's always kind of searching for more. But she's incredible.
Wonderful. Well, I'm definitely keen for the impending experience of discovery. So I feel this is where I need to say, Jacob Banks, I want to say thank you so very much for your time today and for being part of the Trusty Chords podcast as well.
Amen. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening to Trusty Chords. If you listened to this episode and enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you were able to take a few moments to like, follow, share, and review this podcast on your preferred platform of choice. As always, no obligation, but I'm forever grateful if you do. I'm also over at Instagram and Facebook at Trusty Chords Podcast, all one word, as always, and I've got the blog on my website, which is tylerjenke.com. That's TYLERJENKE/Trusty Chords Podcast, all one word. That's where you can find a list of all the songs chosen by my guests each week, along with the playlist of all the songs chosen thus far. You can also find a link to the Buy Me a Coffee platform where you can throw me a few dollars to keep this podcast running, if you feel so inclined. I also need to thank Jacob Banks for spending his time with me this week for the podcast, and I also need to thank Layla from Scrabble PR for helping to organise the chat as well. But once again, thank you kindly for listening, and I hope to see you all again next week as I continue to celebrate music and those that create it.